I'm Dave Streen with Author Summaries, and I've got Andre Norman, author of Ambassador of Hope, with me today.
My brother Dave, good to
Welcome,
be here.
welcome. So good to see you. Appreciate you coming on. So
Definitely, man. I appreciate the invitation to come on and talk author summaries. That's my thing.
good deal, good deal. So boy, my head's reeling with a bunch of questions and stuff, but why don't we start with a little bit of bio so everybody knows about a little bit more about you.
Okay.
Um, so yeah.
Well, my book is titled Ambassador of Hope, Turning Poverty and Prison into a Purpose-Driven Life. And the book was written because I grew up in the inner city of Boston, went through a lot of turmoil, and I ended up in some bad situations, which took me to prison. And when I got to prison, it was like kind of like a fish to water. I was super scared. It was like a fish to water. Like for some reason, it's like all the times I spent on punishment as a kid, all the times my parents told me no or whatever, it just prepared me for prison. For a long story short, I got there, I joined the gang for protection, then I got into the gang life, and I'd never been in the gang before. So I got in and I was good at it. And I did really good at gang stuff, mainly because I didn't know the consequences for a lot of stuff that I was doing. So I was willing to do stuff, not really understanding the consequences. They're like, oh, he's really brave or he's really bold. No, I was really stupid. But being really stupid moved me up in the ranks in the gangs, and I got shipped around the country, a lot of problems, a lot of issues. Then I finally woke up one day and I realized I was a king of nowhere, that I had achieved nothingness, that everything I had done up until that point in prison was a waste of time. Then I was like trying to change my life around, and I remember I got my hands on this book I was reading during my transformation. And I don't want to say the title of the book because I didn't like the book. It was a guy who'd been to prison who wrote a book about being in prison and how he came out and he made his life better. But I had bought in as a gang member. I bought in as a criminal. I bought into this. This is how we live. And I'm reading this book, and this guy is everything but everything as a prisoner you would detest about another prisoner. He was it. The crime he came to jail for, what he did at trial, how he treated his friends, how he ran and hit on them. I mean, it was just all super bad stuff as far as we're concerned. It's like if you're a writer, plagiarist, liar, you know what I'm saying, arrogant, you know what I'm saying, condescending, narcissist, like you don't like that person. There's a lot of character traits that you don't like where you come from. Well, in our life, in the prison life, he had every characteristic of everybody we didn't like. So as I read this book, it was a well-written book though.
Yeah.
I got to the end of the book. I said, this guy can't represent us. He can't represent me. If this is the only book you read about prisoners, you think this is okay, which prompted me to want to write my book. So I wrote my, I got a, I, that literally that next day, I went and got a yellow notepad and a pen and I started writing.
Okay. Were you in
And
prison writing this
I
then?
was in prison.
Okay.
I was in prison. I started writing the book. And I wrote most of the book at the maximum security at the max. Then they moved me to another prison. When I got to the school, there was a school building. I went to the school building. There was a teacher there, super nice lady. She let me use a computer, and you weren't supposed to, but we had floppy disks back then. So she'd give me a floppy disk. I sit at my computer and I write my book. Then she would hold the disk for me.
Hmm.
Then my disk got full, she let me mail it home.
Okay.
So
All
my
right.
entire book was mailed out at my house with
Wow.
food to take home.
Okay. Cool. I didn't know that. So, um, your book goes a lot into kind of the upbringing and the family life you had and whatever that kind of led you there. Do you think, do you want to talk about that a little bit? And
Oh, I
okay.
mean, as a child, I watched my mom go through like horrendous domestic violence. It's called that now. In the 70s, it was called handling your household. You were allowed to beat your wife in the 70s. There was no domestic violence charges even in existence. So I watched my mom go through that. Then as a kid, I would go to school, and there was a time in America where white kids and black kids went to separate schools. Then they came to integration of schools. Well, I'm from Boston. When they started integrating schools in Boston, the city protested. A lot of people in the city protested. They would line up and they would throw rocks at our buses and call us names and all the wonderful names that you can think of you would call black people. And the funny thing is, my bus didn't go to a white school. We just went to a white neighborhood.
Mm.
I went to a black school, but our bus went through a white neighborhood. They didn't know the difference. So any bus that came by with black kids only got rocks thrown at it and names. So you go through that. Then one day the rock stopped. And for that, for my mom, one day the beating stopped. So she kicked my dad out. The city kind of worked out the school thing and it calmed down. So now I'm mom has single mom with 6 kids and we're struggling. She's trying to make ends meet. And it's just tough. We end up at a new school and I find out that I'm illiterate. So they had a thing called the dummy class. They said put the kids who couldn't read at the end of the hall. They put me at the end of the hall in the dummy class with the illiterate kids, and it was just okay.
Hmm.
Luckily for me, a teacher intervened and pulled me out of the dummy class. And she said, "You're not a dummy. You just learn differently. And I'm going to teach you your learning style."
Wow, wow. So from there to published author. So
Yeah, I mean, there's a thing that they say in America that they build prison cells based on third grade math and English scores. Well, I definitely qualify. They call it school to prison pipeline. And I definitely rode that bus. In third grade, I was completely, me, Melvin, and Thaddeus were all in the dummy class together, all went to prison. And when I got to prison, the crazy part was it was all the kids from the dummy class. It was all the kids from the principal's office. It was all the kids who got kicked out of band or quit football or basketball or track. It was all the kids who flunked leadership class. It was all the kids on juvie probation. All the kids who used to skip school. It was like a giant reunion of everybody who quit on life. We all met up at the prison.
wow. Do you think like I know from my own upbringing, like I can remember, my mom saying, "Hey, you're not allowed to hang out with those kids." And they were best friends with my best friend. So there were situations where I was just with them or whatever, and I get in trouble for hanging out with them and roll forward, in the hindsight of time past, two of them went into prison. They're both dead now and everything. And it's like she could visibly see their whole lives unfolding based on the decisions they were making as kids, young adults and whatever. Do you think that's,
My mom,
I mean,
my mom would have had the same attitude and the same disposition, but she's working 2 or 3 jobs. She's trying to take care of 6 kids. We always got a cousin or uncle coming by sleeping on the couch. So it's never just she's sitting at home can be mom.
yeah,
She's
yeah,
like mom, she's dad, she's this, she's a breadwinner, she's disciplinary, she's everything. I remember one time I got in trouble and she caught herself giving me a beating. She took me to the kitchen, she got an extension cord and she took me by my hand. I'm probably like in the ninth grade or something. So I'm 14. I'm her size, if not bigger. And she grabbed me by my hand, and like you do a little kid, you beat him and like he's spinning a circle. So she's beating me, and I'm spinning in a circle, but it's not hurting.
okay,
I had to kind of fake cry because I was feeling bad that she was trying her best to discipline me, not hurt me, and it wasn't there. I mean, she tried, but again, she has 6 kids. We're almost 6 kids in 7 years. So it
yeah,
wasn't like we were super spread out. It was like a boom. And she didn't have the physical strength to correct me.
okay,
And so she just could hope for the best and pray for me. That's all she could do because when she tried to correct me, it didn't. You can't. Mom can't beat you. Not as a young adult. It's not. Come on, you can't hurt me, mom. I'm grown. I'm a mini grown man now. So it hurt her more than it hurt me that she was trying, and the only thing she knew how to try was give him a spanking. Spanking's not working. Talking to him is not working. Curfew's not working. Punishment's not working. So there weren't a lot of programs. There was no internet. There was no resources. And my uncles live far away. And she's like on her own with 6 kids. And
yeah.
she's just trying her best to keep food in the house. Now I gotta hope this kid goes to school. And it was almost impossible for her to do by herself.
Now here we are 30, 40 years later. Is there a young Andre Norman out there somewhere that's in the same situation, or have times got better? Like what?
There will always be a young Andre Norman. There will always be a young kid, girl or boy, white or black or Spanish, who's just off track, who's not misunderstood in the sense of how do you communicate to me? So I'm a non-emotional person. So you're not going to compel me with emotion. You got to compel me with logic. If it's not logical, I'm not buying in because I come from there's food, there's no food. There's heat, there's no heat. I don't do emotions. I'm like, either there's food down there or it's not. So I'm really logical. And so there are tons of kids with their own version of trauma who are struggling and trying to get through and try to make it. Everybody wants to make it. We just don't know how to get our own ways. And our parents might be overwhelmed or underskilled and helping us break through these barriers that we have. So you can be the greatest parent. You can live in a nice neighborhood with 2 cars and a husband is upstairs. But if your husband is busy working and he's not helping you with the kids, and you're overwhelmed and you don't have the bandwidth, and there's a lot going on, and then you throw in this thing changed it to a whole nother level. This didn't exist when I was a kid. So now you can have friends in China and Russia and Argentina. You can have friends all over the world. When I was a kid, we used to go out. 7 o'clock was kind of our time. We would all meet at the bus stop at 7 o'clock, and the bus came at like 7:05. It was like the night bus came at 7:05. We knew this, so we meet at the bus stop by 7. We get on the 7:05 bus. Boom, it's gone. The next bus was like at 7:25 or something. If you miss that 7:05 bus, that means they're going to get to the train station 20 minutes ahead of you, which means they're going to get on a train before you get the next bus is going to get the next train. So if you
Yeah.
miss that 7:05 bus, you're done.
Hmm.
You run around, you get to this corner, the bus is 7:06, and then you see the bus gone, you turn around, go back up the hill, go home. Now you can jump and you can order Uber, order a Lyft, order a Waymo if you're in Phoenix or San Fran. There's all kinds of options. You can get a line bike. There was none of it. You can text your friends, where are you at? I'll meet you there. I remember countless times I missed that 7:05. I went back in the house.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, if you miss the 7:05, you take your next one, you can just text and just group up later. Matter of fact, my son has it on Snapchat. They have this locator where they all know each other are instantly.
Yeah.
So it's a different world.
Oh yeah. Yeah. With that brings other problems, though, I think. I mean, you can have friends all over the world, but you can be more lonely than,
Yeah. My
ever.
mom used to
So,
say, you belong to the family until you turn 6. Because from 0 to 6, you're only in the house.
hmm,
At 6, you start going to school, you start interacting with other kids, and all bets are off because you never know what those kids know or don't know or going to share with you. So for my mom, that was the truth. We were all in until 6, and the kindergarten was down the street. So she kind of had us to like 8 or 9.
yeah.
Nowadays, my son had an iPad at birth. He didn't know how to use it, but he was banging on the thing. And then now he's playing game. My son Louis is playing,
Yeah.
sitting in his dorm room, playing FIFA soccer against somebody in Argentina, somebody in Russia, somebody in China and Bangladesh, and yeah, all over the world. He might be playing with another 19-year-old, a 14-year-old, or a 50-year-old. Anybody can just log on and interact with your kid now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Impossible when I was a kid. No feasible way.
Yeah. My nephew lives in Chicago, and he was learning Mandarin, and he's part of the lessons is they actually get on their iPads and they FaceTime. The kid in China is learning English and he's learning Mandarin, and they're just chatting with each other the best they can. And I was like, blew my mind. I never even thought of anything like that.
0.2 seconds. You can touch any place on the planet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's hard for a parent who's overworked, overwhelmed. You can't manage their phones and they hide stuff in their phones. And it's so for parents right now who don't understand Snapchat, don't understand Instagram, don't understand TikTok, they understand Facebook, just learning it. And their kids are off that 100 miles ago. And there's
Yeah.
new apps popping up every single day. So you're trying to keep up in a world that you don't even understand. And it's almost next to impossible. Now, if your kid is a good kid and they have their head on straight and they're going down the right path, then it's okay. But if your kid was one of the kids like me who was curious and off track and not 100% there and impressionable, now he's open or she's open to a lot of stuff. And then when they go off the rails, what do? Who do you call? Who wants to take the call that your kid is smoking cigarettes now? Who wants to take the call that your kid is smoking weed now? Who do you call for that? And so now you're like stuck. It's embarrassing. My kid's using drugs, he's cutting school, or he's having sex, or she's doing this. So the shame overwhelms you. And it's like, I can't tell anybody. I got to keep it to myself. And I can't, that's why in this book, the purpose of the book is for people to know that there's help. We've been through this. I watched my mom go through this, and I want to help other moms help their kids. And that's what turning, you know what I'm saying, prison and poverty into, if I can come from that low, your kid may or may not be at that level. We might be a little bit higher or lower, but we can help.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Well, when was it the first Genius Network that I saw you speak at? Was that 3 years ago, the annual event?
I spoke in 2018 at the annual event, I believe.
Okay. Okay.
18 to 2019.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Um, so let's go back a little bit. In the book, you tell the story about getting a cheeseburger. And I wanted to, if you could share a little bit about that, not too much, don't give it away or whatever, but I also want to know like how that carries into the confidence. Like everybody in the room could be panicking over something and you just take it all in and evaluate. Like you don't panic like other people panic. And I'm not
Most,
saying panic like the place on fire. I think you know what I'm saying. Like you
yeah,
you know how to evaluate and you know, and you say like, hey, you told me that one time, like, hey, if I reacted like that in prison, wouldn't be a good outcome. So,
right. So growing up in my house, my mother was really verbal. We didn't grow up with a lot of toys and there was no internet. So everybody talked to each other. It was all communication. There was many times we didn't have electricity, someone was watching TV. So you talked to each other. We grew up playing Monopoly, board games, chess, Clue, all these little stupid games. Shoots and ladders, all communicate. We all talked. Everybody was talking, 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 talking. So I became a natural talker. Then I spent a lot of time by myself because I wasn't a nerd, kind of sort of. I wasn't like the athlete. I wasn't academic. So I was oftentimes by myself. Just I watched and I learned by watching. Couldn't read. So I had to watch and learn. So I would watch you do something 3 or 4 times, then I would try it. And I watched her do something 3 or 4 times, then I would try it. And that's how, so I had to be reflective and pay attention to learn because I couldn't pick up a book and just read it. So I watched people. So that's what me growing up. Now I went to prison, it was the same thing. Every word you said mattered, every reflection, every twitch, every tone matters. When somebody uses a certain tone with you, it matters. You know what I'm saying? It might be life or death. It might be a lot worse. So I learned how to de emotionalize myself because if you start showing emotions in prison, it's a sign of weakness. And it's always, I'm talking about 7 days a week, 365 days a year for my entire 14 years, there's chaos happening every day in prison. So it becomes normal. It just you get normalized to somebody getting beat in the head, somebody hanging themselves, somebody setting themselves on fire. A guy tried to jump on the wall and got shot. This guy got raped. This guy got thrown in. Every single day, all day is chaos. So when you live in chaos, you learn to live in chaos. You learn to normalize chaos. So I'm used to being around 22, 3,000 chaotic, dysfunctional, violent people
mm,
every day, all day, out hunting each other. So you take me out of that environment and you put me at Genius Network where there's 40 entrepreneurs who are just nice people who here to get along and learn something. This is, come on, this is zero chaos again. So for this, I'm used to dealing at a level 5,000 chaos. I walk into a building when it's negative 20 chaos. So there's nothing that's going to happen at Genius Network, at War Room, at YPO, at London Business School, at Harvard Law School that to me is going to register as chaos.
wow. Okay.
So you have to go to a whole nother level for me to say, oh, this is chaotic. You know what I'm saying? I've been in the middle of riots, lockdowns, 3 days, no food. I've been through some stuff being in prison. So what I call chaos, most people call impossible to deal with. So when I'm in a room, what looks chaotic to the entrepreneur, to the CEO, to the CFO, or to the staff, to me, is not. So it allows me to just maintain my focus because there's nobody wielding a knife. There's nobody on a tower shooting, doing warning shots. There's nobody bleeding. There's nothing, none of that is happening. So for me, it's not, it's just a little bit of situation that I can see clearly through. And say,
Mm,
okay, who are the players? What's the situation? How do we get to resolution? And the good part is most entrepreneurs are looking for resolution.
mm.
So it's just helping them find what they're already looking for. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
get, I don't spaz out often.
Hmm. So how can we, as entrepreneurs and authors and stuff, how can we, um, kind of learn some of that without, going through it.
You like anything else. If I want to understand police mentality, I talk to a police officer. If I want to understand a clergy's mentality of forgiveness and praying, and I go talk to a clergy. If you want to learn how to handle chaotic situations, call me
Mhm.
and I can teach you. I
Right.
mean, it's a teachable skill. I didn't grow up with it, but it's a teachable skill. And that's just something we learn to deal with. I say, in the black household, you learn how to duck early because your mother throws shoes. So I don't know any black kid that can't duck. It's just automatic. It's like, because the shoes coming, a book is coming, something's gonna come flying at you at some point in time. Because she can't get across the room, she's throwing something. So you learn to duck. I go to my friends' houses, their mothers don't throw shoes, so they don't duck well. So if somebody threw a shoe, they be like, wow, what happened? Why didn't you duck? Well, I'd be saying, why didn't you duck? I'm like, duck. My friends would come to my house and be like, this is crazy. But to us, it was normal. So if you want to learn skills that somebody else has, you have to go somebody with those skills. If I want to learn how to be a writer, I would call you. My website stuff, I call you. I don't, it's not my world. So I call, hey, Dave, I need help. And it might seem so basic, the stuff that I call you for. It's so basic to you, but to me, it's like I don't code, I don't
Yeah.
graph, I don't move, nothing. It's the same thing with chaos. For me, what you think is chaotic, to me, is like, hey, that's not a problem. I got that. So
Yeah, but
it's
you got
teachable.
that other side where you're like, you know exactly what you want it to do, and you're very good at simplifying stuff and saying, no, 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 this is what it needs to do, and so
The
it we all
simplification
have.
comes from talking to people without extreme education. Most of the people in prison have like a fourth grade or lower education. Most of the people in prison have dealt with or are dealing with drug addiction. Most of the people in prison are dealing with or have gone through extreme trauma. Most of the people in prison are living in despair, depression, and desperation. So when you're talking to that person who's an addict, who's been traumatized, has been neglected, has been abused, he's stressed out, he got 1,000 years, and he's not educated and he doesn't communicate well. So you have to explain things to him in a way that he understands. Now, I can be as smart as I want to be, but the guy I'm talking to never got past the second grade. He's been abused since he was born. He can't read and he's limited vocabulary. So I got to explain it to him. So my simplification comes from dealing with people with limited education. So now that I'm around people who are educated, I still simplify things. It's mandatory that you
Hmm.
can simplify when you're dealing with people in prison.
Okay, that makes sense. Wow, very cool. So well, let's leave the book for a minute and talk about like some of the stuff that you're up to now, and helping people and your programs.
I mean,
So
I was blessed to be given a second chance. I spent 14 years in prison, and I was talking to somebody earlier. I said, you have to take the bad things in life and make them lessons. You have to turn every opportunity into a lesson. So you can look at it and be emotional. Oh my God, that hurts. Or you can turn it into a lesson. So I took prison and I turned it into a lesson. I took poverty and I turned it into lessons. I took lack and not having and turned them into lessons. I took every bad experience and said, what am I learning from this? What did I learn from not having a dad? What did I learn by being in solitary confinement? What did I learn by being in these situations? And what are the commonalities that other people need to learn? You might not be in a prison cell, but are you a solo entrepreneur and you're locked in your office all day? I'm saying
mm,
you might not have a gang around you that's really dangerous people, but you might be working with some people who are shady and I'm saying and might be doing like some stuff across the line. So I always tell people I will tell you my story, and I trust that you're smart enough to draw the line.
mm,
Granted, you've never been in solitary confinement. Granted, you've never been in a knife fight. Granted, you didn't grow up in the inner city in a impoverished neighborhood. That's fine, but the lessons still apply. So
yeah,
I teach the lessons. I don't need to teach you the life. You just want the lessons from the life.
yeah, yeah. Okay, the wisdom. Yeah. Speaking of some of the situations, stabbings and whatnot, do you a lot of people with trauma hold on to it their whole lives. You don't seem to. let it define you or control you in any way. I don't know. Does that creep up and you're just good at hiding it? Have you dealt with it? Like, I,
I got a bag next to me. No, when I was a young man, I didn't know how to control my anger. I didn't know how to control my rage or my trauma. And I was traumatized as a kid, saw too much, been through too much. And my expression was violence. My sister's expression was drugs. My brother's expression was drinking. My little brother's expression was marijuana. I got another sister's expression was just disconnecting. So everybody had their own version of how you dealt with trauma. So we all ran to something. So my brother to a bottle, my other brother to a bag of weed, my other sister to drugs, and we all ran to something. I ran to violence. So I should have been a boxer, but I was just too small. I probably have been a great boxer or a middle linebacker because
yeah,
I had that. I needed to vent my rage on something or somebody, and that's how I let mine out. And so as a young person, I didn't know how to control my rage, and it would take over me. When I went to counseling and therapy, I learned how to control my rage. And I realized it wasn't rage, it was called energy.
mm,
I got energy. And this is just, it has to come out. The energy hasn't left me. I just
yeah,
don't know how to control it. So
okay,
now, when you see me getting stuff done, I run it in my mind. I get stuff. Like, Dre, how do you get all that stuff done? How do you move so fast? How do you see so far ahead? Because I've taken the energy and I moved into a place in space where I can channel it. And you said, well, that doesn't make sense. Well, Ray Charles is handicapped, but he took all of his energy and he focused it on his music. He didn't. He can't focus on what doesn't work. His eyes don't work.
hmm,
So he focused his energy and his pain and other things he's been through into his work. He focused it into music. So Ray Charles is one of the greatest musicians ever. But how is that possible if he's blind? Because he learned how to take that energy and focus it. And everybody has energy. That's where walking batteries.
yeah,
So in all the pain, the suffering, the heartache, the breakups, the ups, the downs, your team lost, your girl left, whatever it is, creates energy inside of you. Can you control that energy and focus it? And when you can focus that energy, you can get great things done. They say tap into your inner self. And that's Kung Fu Kid. Tap into your inner self. Get on one foot. You know what I'm saying? So I learned to channel my energy. Wax on, wax off.
okay, yeah, very cool, very cool. Um, let's talk a little bit. Like, you fly all over the world helping people. You help, you know, famous celebrities, sporting teams, all that. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and how you
I mean,
you went from the king of nowhere, the top of the world that you didn't want to be in, but and then to Harvard, graduate and stuff. Um,
so
like,
I when I was a kid, I used to play the trumpet. That's what on the wall behind me.
yep.
Then my friends talked me out of playing the trumpet because they didn't have goals. They didn't want me to have a goal. And I went for the okie doke. And then when I got to a place when I realized I wanted to be better, I needed a goal. So my goal was to go home and go to Harvard University. My friends tried to talk me out of it again, different set of friends. But I had been through that. The lesson of having my trumpet solo in the ninth grade was so when my friends in prison tried to steal my dream of going to Harvard, I knew how to recognize it and say no. So I took the lesson from ninth grade and I applied it in prison.
Wow.
I drew the line because I've seen this before. You can't get me twice with the same game. So I didn't go for it the second time. Had I not gone through it the first time, I might have gone for it when it came up in prison, and I'd have never made it to Harvard. So I'd have been like, "Oh, I can't leave my friends." And no, no, no. I left my friends. I left my dream with my friends in the ninth grade, and I ended up in prison. So I'm not doing this again. So I set a goal to go to Harvard. It seemed impossible to most people. But I looked in the mirror. I said, "What's inside of me that's stopping this dream from happening?" Then I started working on my goals, and taught myself how to read, taught myself the law, went to anger management, overturned my case on appeal. I started designing programs inside to help people. I started doing counseling, started doing therapy, started giving speeches, and I just kept working for 8 straight years until I got out of prison. And I kept working when I came home, and I finally achieved my goal of becoming a Harvard Fellow. It took me 25 years to do it, but I did it. Now, companies come to me and said, Andre, how dare you, sitting in a maximum security prison in solitary confinement, and dare to go to Harvard University? What gave, there was nothing in your environment that said Harvard. How did you even come up with that? Then I explained how I came up with it. They're like, well, can you teach my people vision? Then they said, well, you were in a hole with all 100 years and you overturned your case, learned how to read, came out of a dungeon, came to a maximum security prison, and you stayed focused for 8 years and you came out, you stayed focused for another 15. Can you teach my people discipline? Because that was a lot of discipline involved. And you had to communicate at a lot of levels with a lot of people. Can you teach my people communication skills, reflective listening skills? People want, they saw the journey, but they wanted the skills that got me through the journey. And I learned that how I got through was more valuable to people than I got through. That I got through is the book. How I got through are trainings.
Yep.
So people come back to me and say, yo, teach me how to get through. Teach my company, teach my kid, teach my wife, teach my husband, teach whoever how to actually apply these lessons that you learned along the way. Whether it's communication, it's learning how to read, I mean, it's turning away from things, how to say no, all the different things that I learned that got me from the basement of prison to Harvard. People want those lessons. They don't want to walk the walk, but they definitely want the lessons that came from the walk. And so I've been able to take those and just help people. So if you have a kid that's suicidal, I was dealing with suicidal people every single day in solitary confinement. It's like second nature.
Wow.
In the hole, you're in the hole for 2-3 years at a time. Once a month, somebody's trying to hang themselves. Every week, somebody's talking about killing themselves. So it's a daily conversation. And after you have like 1,000 conversations with suicidal people, you learn how to have conversations with suicidal people and extremely suicidal people, people who have nothing to live for. They've given up, their families left, their kids turned their back on them. They're in here and they did whatever they did. And they just said, this is it. This is it. I got nothing. And so if that person wants to kill himself, if I can talk that person back off the ledge. Now, your kid lives in a nice house, he got his own room, he has TV, Xbox phone. He's depressed, he's traumatized, but he's by nowhere near the level of psychosis that I'm used to dealing with. So it's a lot easier to bring that kid back than to bring a guy who has a double life sentence 30 years in and he has no family.
Wow. Yeah.
So I've been dealing with extreme suicidal cases, extreme mental illness, extreme depression. I mean, so I spent 14 years studying the most extreme scenarios humanly possible. So now that I'm free and I'm working with families and companies and countries, it's like it's almost not fair. I'm saying because I come in, I'm used to like extreme. When I say extreme, I mean extreme.
Wow.
Now I'm just dealing with a 15-year-old kid whose girlfriend broke up with him, or a 14-year-old girl who somebody's not paying, who's they're being bullied on cyberspace, or what. It's real to them, but it's not catastrophic to me. I can see the other side, and I can help them see the other side. And so I go in and do a lot of suicide work, a lot of bullying work. I do a lot of communication stuff. I just want to help people get to a better space.
Really
So
good. Really good. And
that's
I've seen
taken
it
me.
firsthand. I've seen you do it. So it's
I've been
amazing.
London Business School, working there since 2000. 2001, I started at London Business School. 2016 at Harvard Law School. The UN is called, the White House is called, Honduras, the country, Liberia, the country. We get countries calling, families calling. We don't try to pick and choose. If you call our phone, I'll pick it up.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing. Um, so what's next for you? I know a little bit because I'm doing your marketing and stuff. Do you want to talk about that a little? And
Right here, Second Chance University. I have here we go. Keep it right here. Second Chance University is a program that I designed to help first ex-offenders or current offenders. There's 2.2 million people in jail. And I have this thing. This is a prison tablet. It's like an iPad for prisoners. And there's 650,000 of these I have access to. I put educational content, mental health content, you're saying therapy, positive entertainment on here to engage them. So Second Chance University will launch in January 2025. And the day we open, we will have 650,000 students, which will make us the largest university in the world. And the goal is to provide access and education and inspiration for people trying to start their lives over. So if they're in jail, we're coming in trying to train and help them be better, bring them positive information, someone who's been there and made it. I am the only TV channel on here that's a former prisoner talking to current prisoners about how to make it. So everybody else is trying to like, oh, there's a positive show. Oh, no, no. I'm on here face to face. Like, listen, I sat in that cell. I know what not getting mail looks like today. I know you didn't get no mail today. I know what that feels like. Let me talk to you about that. I know what it's like Christmas time. Let me talk to you about that. I know what it's like sitting in solitary confinement. Let me talk to you about that. You know, your appeal just got denied, or your mother got sick. Whatever the thing is, I talk to them from me to them in real time. And then we bring the education, we bring the hope, we bring the inspiration, we bring the entrepreneurship and get them ready to come home. And that's what we're doing now. So we have 650,000 people in our class behind the wall. And as they segue out, there'll be a second chance university on the other side to help them get up to speed so then we can pass them off to a 2 or 4 year college or a trade school.
So good, so needed. That's amazing.
So, I mean, think about this. I was talking to a gentleman who worked at a bank. I told him I got 650,000 people who don't have bank accounts. He said, there's no such thing. I said, I got them. I was talking to a company that uses entry level workers. I said, I got 650,000 people who need an entry level job.
Mm.
Can you give me your training on how to do that 1 or 2, 3 things? I can put it on here. They can watch it for the next 10 years. Think
Wow.
about this. I come out of prison. I come to your company. I say, yo, Dave, man, I've been in prison for 14 years. I've turned my life around. I really want to work for you. Can you give me a chance? I have no understanding of what you do. I have no training in what you do. I just gave me, I need a chance, Dave. Come on, give me a chance. You want to hire me, but I don't now you got to train me up. And there's a lot of other contingencies that you have to consider. Imagine if I spent 4 years studying all of your components, all of your stuff. Then
Wow.
I show up and say, hey, Dave, I've been studying your company for 4 straight years. I know everything about everything. I can break it down for you right now. And I
Wow.
really want to do this. I am a way better candidate for your company. And it makes it easier for you to hire me. So I say to companies, I have companies now giving me their digital trainings. I'm putting it on the platform. And the inmates, 650,000, they can self-select and study 1, 2, whatever they got left,
Wow.
5, 10 years. By the time that person walks out, they just need a competency test to prove to you that they really studied it. And they
Yeah.
will.
Wow. That's amazing.
So it's like it makes workforce development better. It makes hiring people easier. I don't want, listen, I spent time in jail. I will hire a guy who came out of jail, but I can't hire you if you can't do nothing. If you can't produce, then it's not a job, it's charity.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't want jobs to become charity jobs because some businesses can't afford charity jobs, but they need real good workers. So if you're a small company or a big company, you can just say, give me the training. The guy or the girl is going to they're going to study your stuff 3, 4, 5. The average candidate that comes to your job has never studied your stuff. Imagine if everybody walks in with 5 years of study on your stuff. It makes onboarding a lot easier. And you don't have to explain the culture, the mission, none of that. The how-tos, they got it.
Wow. Nobody's ever done anything like that before.
Well,
Government.
they said I couldn't go to Harvard. They said it was impossible. And I did it. And when people talk to me, I said, I did the impossible. And for the record, I've done it multiple times.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you sit in a cell in the basement for 2.5 years, you start thinking. You start thinking about what can be done and how to get it done. So workforce development is a necessary thing in 2025 and beyond. And right now, you can't pay people to work. You can't offer them enough money to work. And if you do give them to come to the door, they're walking out 3 to 4 or 5 months later because you didn't have bean bags or the tables didn't go up and down or you didn't have the right stuff in the vending machine. I have 600,000 people come home from prison every year. and they are dying for jobs, and they're willing to study your stuff if you give it to me. If you give it to me, I'll put it in front of them, and they will study it like nobody else. And when they show up to your front door, they'll be ready.
Wow, that's amazing. It's amazing. Hmm. So good, so good. So, what didn't I ask you that I should have?
What you should have asked me is, am I a Celtic fan? Of course I am.
There
Am I a Patriot fan? Of course I am.
you go.
No, I mean, seriously, I just want people to know that, yes, there's a lot of us who go through hard times. There's even a lot of us who end up in prison. And there's a lot of us who come home. And there's a lot of people who don't go to prison. So this isn't just for me, just about prisoners. Second Chance University might be the divorcee wife at 38 with no job skills. She was married from 24 to 38. It didn't work out. Now all of a sudden she has to go into the workforce. Who's gonna give her a second chance?
Hmm.
I'm saying there's a lot of people coming out of a lot of situations who just they're at this job and it's killing them. It's just eating them alive. They got to start over. They need a second chance. We will help you learn how to transition, whether it's from prison, a divorce, a bad relationship, substance abuse, depression, whatever your thing is, we will help you. It's not just for prisoners. And if you're a loved one of any one of the above, we will help you learn how to help them. Because my mother didn't know how to help me. My sister loved me above and beyond. She didn't know how to help me. So when I came home from prison and I sat on the couch, should they let me stay for a week, 2 weeks, a month? How long do I sleep on the couch for before we start saying, Drake, go get a job? Well, Mom, I've been in jail for 14 years. I need to rest. What do you say to that? I don't know. Let him rest. I want to go out the door to day one. Mom, I've been in jail for 14 years. I need to get outside. What do you say to that? You say, snap back to what your mother said to you. Those guys are no good for you. Well, she doesn't know the new guys because I'm meeting people online and all kinds of craziness. So it's like, how do you help somebody who's transitioning out of a bad space? I understand that. So the accountability, the being direct, the holding people accountable, all those things matter. The nuances matter, and how they respond matters. So we want to help you, help your kid, help your loved one, help whoever transition. So it's not just, oh, we're only for prisoners or only for people from the inner city. If you're transitioning and you need help, we want to help you. Listen, the tech world laid off about 300,000 people. That hurts.
Hmm.
How do you restart? Listen, how do I get my confidence again? How do I get my self-worth again?
Wow.
Was it me or what? Why didn't they keep me, and why me? Why not me? Why does all those questions that break your esteem down? We can rebuild your confidence. We can rebuild you. And then, as you see, we're great communicators. So, teaching you how to be on, we call it stage presence. So, it's in the front of the room, it's at a workshop, it's keynote address, job application, job interview, and whatever it is, we can teach you how to actually articulate yourself in a way that you can actually get that job or make the connection that you're trying to make. A lot of people aren't great communicators. You might be a great IT person, you might be a great this or that, but actually going one-on-one and communicating and expressing yourself, being able to read the room and the people in the room, and conveying the message at the right level, the right speed and tempo with the nuance to actually convey your message to get across what you want and win, whatever you're trying to win, is important. But some people, I'm just good at tech. I'm not good at interviewing. I actually teach people how to go into the parole board. Now, these are guys who are non-articulate, non-educated, and hurt somebody. I got to teach them how to go into the parole board and convey sorrow, remorse, plan, strategy, backup plan. Said on top of everything else, and I'm helping people get parole by teaching them how to communicate with the parole board because they didn't know how to communicate. Like, man, I'm not a talker. I'm not a talker. Everybody's not talkers. So I teach people how to communicate. So I started out teaching people how to do parole hearings. Now I teach people all kinds of communication. So whether it's a job interview, if it's hiring or firing, screening, if saying, I used to do a lot of people with dates. Like, man, I like this girl. I don't know what to say to her. So a lot of people are nervous in a lot of spaces. Communication is not easy. It used to be said that motivational speaker was the most scariest job in the world.
Yeah.
And so I have the most scariest job, so I teach people how to communicate. You don't have to become a motivational speaker, but you definitely got to get through that interview and get through that workspace presentation, the front of the room, the PowerPoint, whatever it is, and we teach that because it's transition is not easy.
No, not for anybody. That's and confidence and mindset, all of that stuff, so big in everything you do, no matter what it is.
You come see us, and we'll get you right.
Awesome, awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Andre. And everybody grab a copy of Ambassador of Hope, or you can listen to Andre read it to you as he has the audiobook. And reach out to him. Check him out, andrenorman.com.
That is me, and I appreciate you, Dave. Looking forward to hanging out with you again.
Awesome, Andre. Thanks.